dear Peter Cowe, dear Dr. Petrosyan, distinguished guests, dear participants. I'm very glad to welcome all of you. I'm the rector of Yerevan State University, Hovhannisyan. It was a long time we were waiting for this conference to happen, and I'm very happy that you are all here, safely arrived. Hope you enjoyed yesterday's concert, and hope you will enjoy the rest of the days here. 2 days of the conference and ending with Gyumri. So it's very intense schedule you have in these days. Hope you will enjoy everything, the discussions, also the cultural part. So this event brings us together to share knowledge, discuss important topics, and build new ideas. I congratulate Narekatsi Chair of Armenian Study at the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, the Institute of Armenian Studies of Yerevan State University, and the Dornsife Institute of Armenian Studies, University of Southern California, on the organization of the splendid international conference. In scanning the program for this international conference, one is immediately impressed by the wealth of international expertise you all represent and the spectrum of important issues covered by the papers you will be presenting. I would like to thank our speakers, organizers, and attendees for being here. So this is a great opportunity for us to forge mutually beneficial ties within the framework of Gurdjieff studies. At the heart of Gurdjieff's teaching is the call to awaken. He reminded us that humans often live in a state of waking sleep, caught in mechanical habits of thought, emotion, and action. His discovery is the fourth way, a path of development, what differs fundamentally from the traditional ways of the fakir, the monk, and the yogi. The fourth way offers a path of transformation that does not require withdrawal from the world, but rather insists that we use the challenges and demands of daily life as material for inner growth. This fourth way allows for inner development while remaining engaged with ordinary life. The responsibility of being awake is not only personal, but also ethical and collective. He taught the practice of self-remembering, the effort to be truly present in the moment. In our age of distraction, fragmentation, mechanical reactions, and unconscious consumption, his call for self-remembering and conscious presence resonates with particular urgency. He introduced sacred movements and music, not as performance, but as a means to harmonize body, mind, and feeling. And he emphasized community, but the work of inner development requires the support and shared stride of others. I hope this conference will be not only a forum for intellectual exchange, but also a space of inspiration, dialogue, and connection. May our time together honor the richness of Gurdjieff's work and open new perspectives for each of us. Again, welcome here and enjoy the rest of the day, and may your conference conclude successfully. Thank you very much.
Honorable Rector, Professor Peter Cowe, distinguished guests, respected speakers, and dear participants. I'm Vahram Petrosyan, and I have the privilege of being the director of the Institute for Armenian Studies. It's so nice to see all of you here today at this academic conference. We're here to learn, share ideas, and grow through knowledge. Every topic, every speaker, and every question matters. Every session today brings something special. Whether you are here to speak or listen, your presence adds value. Every big idea starts with a small thought, and today we are surrounded by ideas worth sharing. Gurdjieff, throughout his life, was a traveler across lands and across ideas and inner spaces. His search for truth and harmony took him from the monasteries and deserts of the East to the centers of modern Europe, where he shared a vision of human development that was both ancient and radically new. Today, As we gather to reflect on Gurdjieff's legacy, we do so not merely as scholars, but also as seekers. Gurdjieff's ideas remain alive because they invite us into direct experience. They challenge us to look within, to observe ourselves honestly, and to awaken to a deeper sense of responsibility to ourselves, to each other, and to the world. Let's learn, listen, and lift each other up. I'm excited for what we'll discover today. Thank you for coming. Let's have a wonderful time ahead. Let's make this day inspiring. Thank you.
One of our co-sponsors is Dr. Shushan Karapetyan, who is the director of the Center for Armenian Studies at the University of Southern California in Los Angeles. She wanted very much to be present for the conference, but unfortunately, for various reasons, she was unable. But it was very important for her to have a presence. And so this now then will be a virtual presence of Dr. Karapetyan. And so we're just about to show it on the screen.
Sorry.
Fellow seekers. Although I'm unable to be with you in Armenia today, it is a true honor on behalf of the USC Dornsife Institute of Armenian Studies to extend our greetings and to express how meaningful this gathering is to us. Our institute is dedicated to exploring contemporary Armenian realities, not confined by borders, but attentive to the many geographies, communities, and cultural encounters that shape Armenian life today. We study not only politics, history,
Yeah, sorry.
On behalf of the USC Dornsife Institute of Armenian Studies to extend our greetings and fellow seekers. Although I'm unable to be with you in Armenia today, it is a true honor on behalf of the USC Dornsife Institute of Armenian Studies to extend our greetings and to express how meaningful this gathering is to us. Our institute is dedicated to exploring contemporary Armenian realities, not confined by borders, but attentive to the many geographies, communities, and cultural encounters that shape Armenian life today. We study not only politics, history, and language, but also art, music, philosophy, and the diverse ways these realities are lived and interpreted across the globe. It is therefore deeply meaningful for us to co-sponsor this gathering devoted to G.I. Gurdjieff, a figure whose life and work are inseparable from the cultural, spiritual, and intellectual currents of this region, and whose impact extends far beyond it. Gurdjieff challenges us to think interdisciplinarily, to connect music with mysticism, philosophy with science, literature with lived practice. At the Institute, we often say that Armenian studies is not only about Armenians, it is about what the Armenian case reveals to the world. In Gurdjieff, we see precisely this, how a life deeply shaped by the Caucasus can illuminate universal questions of being, consciousness, and creativity. Supporting this conference is thus not simply an act of scholarly sponsorship. It is a reaffirmation of our commitment to fostering dialogues that cross disciplines, geographies, and communities. I want to acknowledge our partners, Yerevan State University, UCLA, and the George Ignatius Foundation, for their vision in bringing this very important program to life. And I want to thank all of you, the scholars, artists, and participants gathered here, for contributing your voices to a conversation that is as timely as it is timeless. May these next days open new paths of inquiry, collaboration, and inspiration. On behalf of the USC Institute of Armenian Studies, welcome and thank you.
With your permission, I'd like to speak from this position. In Samar, hadug ուրախություն է պատճառում, որ մեր գիտեժողովը ստացել է pedagogan համալսարանի աջակցությունը եւ համագործակցությունը։ Մանավանդ, որ ընդունեց ինձ որպես ստաժեր 1980-81 թվականի ուսումնական տարի, երբ առաջին անգամ եկա Հայաստան իմ ասպիրանտուրայի գաբակցությամբ։ Հիշում եմ այն ծանր խորհուրդները, որոնք ստացել ենք նախքան գալը բրիտանական դիվանագետներից, թե ինչքան խիստ գիրառում են խորհրդային չինովնիկները օտարերկրացիների վրա դրված արգելումները եւ սահմանափակումները։ Իսկ երբ հանդիպեցի իմ բաժնի ղեկավարին, շատ բարձ ասացի, թե դու հայագետ ես եւ հասել ես Հայաստան։ Հարկավոր է ամենաշատ դեղեր գնալ եւ ամենաշատ բան տեսնել, քանի դեռ այստեղ ես։ Այդ նույն գրգապած հյուրընկալությունը զգում ենք հիմա նոր գիտեժողովի շրջանակներում։ Այդ ժամանակ իմ հետազոտողության կենտրոնում էր Մաշտոցը եւ նրա վարդապետական գործունեությունը որպես հայկական այբուբենի ստեղծողը եւ գրական ավանդության սկզբնավորողը։ Այսօր նույնպես հավաքված ենք Հայաստանի հողի վրա մի այլ ականավոր զավակի ուսմունքը ուսումնասիրելու, Հանցին Ժորժ Իվանովիչ Գուրջեֆի, որի համբավը եւ առած գործերի արդյունքները տարածվել է դարաշրջանից բավական հեռու եւ աստեցություն են թողել զանազան ժողովուրդների վրա։ Մի մասը մի մեծ տարբերությամբ, որ եթե առաջինի անունը հոլովում է գլխավորապես իր հայրենագիցների շրջունքներին, վերջինից փիլիսոփայական եւ ստեղծագործական արժեքը ավելի գնահատանքի է արժանացել արտերկրում։ For these reasons, the conference title, Gurdjieff Armenia 2025, was selected to reflect some of the core issues it seeks to address. Gurdjieff himself was born over a century and a half ago, left the region over a century ago, moving to Europe and North America as a result of World War I and the Bolshevik Revolution, never to return to Caucasia. In consequence, his teaching has spread in different forms and directions and has evolved through the interventions of many inquirers from a variety of backgrounds and traditions, and has exerted a fascination on many thinkers, artists, and searchers outside any formal structure, in ways that might have been predicted, but which are nevertheless striking for their diversity and pluriformity. Meanwhile, scholarship over the first quarter of the 21st century on Gurdjieff and his teaching has witnessed a massive outpouring, generating studies, monographs, doctoral dissertations, and translations of works by Gurdjieff himself and his pupils over the last decades at a hitherto unprecedented rate. Consequently, having reached the quarter century of the new era, we have attained a useful vantage point from which to review the latest scholarly trends and bring this discussion into dialogue with Southern Caucasia. building on the foundations of scholars like Michael Pittman and Levan Chetelguri, who I'm delighted to say are with us today, both of whom have been active in this endeavor over the last 2 decades. Consequently, one of the conference's core aims has been integration on many dimensions, one of which is facilitating sharing between researchers in different parts of the world. After all, knowledge belongs to no one and to everyone. It only exists in a shared community. Therefore, it is important to secure a place at the table for scholarship from other geopolitical spheres and traditions in the ongoing conversation that has largely developed Anglophone ambiance in Europe and North America that is tended to ignore contributions from other areas of the world in other idioms. Integration and exchange in different dimensions is a role Caucasian has been involved with for centuries, and hence this experience may be salutary, for example, in reviewing the application of the loose terms of East and West widespread in Gurdjieffian scholarship, as if they are hermetically sealed entities, while harmonizing disparate thought and practice has been integral to the way of life in regions like this. Hence, an account of Eurasia's distinct characteristics as a category should have its place in exploring the interrelation of aspects of Gurdjieff's thought and practice. Thus, Gurdjieff's home environment may have more to offer us than the mere fact of his birth and early upbringing. Naturally, our approach must be dialectic. I'm not proposing that etymology determines semantic usage. That is, that every aspect of Gurdjieff's thought can be ascribed to ideas and practices he was exposed to in this region. Such absolutist perspectives develop in a vacuum. Therefore, it is important to break down disciplinary boundaries to permit interdisciplinary exchange between Gurdjieffian scholarship more narrowly defined and what has been termed Caucasiology, among others, studying the terrain, history, folklore, mythology, and culture of the very diverse Caucasus region to foster collaborations that can only be mutually enriching. One of those distinct features of the Caucasian and Eurasian mix in Gurdjieff's time is Russian expansionism, which united the Caucasus to Moscow and then Central Asia, facilitating the travels and studies of figures like Gurdjieff, who journeyed with ease to the latter, which had just entered under Russian rule and had become the object of curiosity to many Russian travelers and scholars. Likewise, the Eurasian tenor of Russian intellectual life distinguished it from its counterparts in Western Europe, creating a fertile ground for discussion over Gurdjieff's evolving concepts with figures like Uspensky, who closely attached themselves to his initial group. Gurdjieff himself wrote extensively in Russian, and the language became a vehicle for much writing on this and similar fields into the Soviet period. Therefore, it is important to incorporate the continuing tradition of Russian study and insights into the author's legacy into the round table of Gurdjieffian scholarship. At the core of Gurdjieff's understanding was human integration at different levels, including the contribution of the emotions and the physical apparatus to an appreciation of the human person. Therefore, it was also important to include within the bounds of this conference expositions on the place of music and movement within the Gurdjieffian system, opening up discussion on his understanding of and influence on art in its wider dimensions. I have words of thanks to the many individuals and institutions which have facilitated organization, most of whom are listed in the program. At this point, I'd like to turn to some practical issues. Just to repeat, all papers are allocated 20 minutes, which in the interest of time will be enforced, followed by 5 minutes of narrowly focused questions to leave time at the end of each panel for a broader discussion of more general issues. Finally, I'd like to ask you to close your cell phones. However, right. So I think that basically I'm going to conclude on this note. We seem to have a number of technical difficulties at the beginning. One of these relates to the first of our keynote addresses. So the file is rather large and it's still being downloaded. So with your permission, I would like to move immediately then to our first general panel. And this then will be moderated by Professor Vahram Petrosyan. And after that, we will be able to return to our opening keynote from Dr. Roger Lipsey.
Again, good morning. Before we begin, I have a few housekeeping notes. Actually, as Peter noted, each presenter in this session will have a total of 30 minutes for their presentation. However, please allow time for further discussion and for questions. So after each presentation, there will be time for 2 or 3 questions. If you have any questions for the presenters, please raise your hand and turn on your microphone when I